The United States basically uses taxpayer dollars like a pool of fun money. Oh, let's just sprinkle some there and sprinkle some over here. Let's not actually put any back into the country that's funding this whole thing, besides helping the rich get richer, that is. I mean, they tell us that our tax dollars will go towards education, government subsidies that we'll be getting somehow a return benefit back from. Most importantly, the roads. When in all reality, the majority of this money goes towards wars, political campaign influence, and somehow always finds its way back into an already rich person's pockets. Then, whenever they want to cut you and I, the average folk, a measly $1,000 or something like that, the public majority pays for it back tenfold throughout things like inflation and cost of living increase in pretty much every area. Well, if you personally feel like you relate to anything discussed in this video, or you simply like topics discussing the crumbling society around you, feel free to like, comment your thoughts, opinions below, and subscribe to see my daily uploads around here discussing topics just like this. And I always like to start these videos off by giving a huge shout out to all my supporters around here, my Patreon supporters, my channel memberships, and everybody who rocks the content. You can check out the links to all that stuff down below in the description. Those are some of the best ways to support me and the content around here. Now, let's begin today's shit show, shall we?
To everyone telling me, go get a job, go get a regular job, you're so lazy. Why would I go out and get a job where I have to work when I make more money sitting at home on welfare than you do working 50 hours a week, never there with your kids, always stressed out, always tired, with a college degree? I'm making more than you. And it's your job as a taxpayer to support me and my 6 children anyways. So no, I'm not going to go out and get a job. I get more in food stamps every month than your 2-week paycheck. I get more than over $4,000 a month in food stamps alone. That doesn't include the $2,200 a month in cash benefits I get every month. That doesn't include my Section 8 being paid. So my $1,100 rent, I don't pay. I pay $80 out of $1,100 every month. On top of 7 disability checks. $920 times 7. Add it up. That's why I'm not going to go get a regular job.
I mean, at a certain point, I don't think you can just help but just laugh. I mean, at the point where this country has come, and the state that some people in this country have gotten to, it's just sort of underwhelming. I mean, this is what many people have fallen into the trap of, is they just have kid after kid after kid to write off the government benefits. And the way that a lot of these systems work, depending on which state you're at, which location you're at, or whichever benefits you can somehow get approved for, you can, weasel your way into. This is the way out of the system. I know many people who just keep having kids because it keeps the taxpayer money rolling in. And just like she's saying, it's absurd how much some people can make, like, so much more than people who actually work their ass off who fund the money she's getting paid. And then the way some of these people feel so damn, like, entitled to the money that they're getting, when it's like, this is actually, these are the type of people that ruin it for everybody else. And it very is, like, it gives you like that ick, gives you that sick pit in your stomach where it's like, makes you kind of like lower your level of expectancy on how the country might, like unfold. But at the same time, you have to realize, like, the ick you're feeling, that's the way the majority of us are feeling. That's why people are giving this such a harsh reaction, because of how ridiculous and how, like, disgusting this type of mentality is. But at the same time, the way that the system's built and the way it's been all set up, and I mean, this is kind of the reality of it. And it's not the reality of it for the majority of people. I mean, like, I've talked about, even I tried to apply for government benefits to do a little test for even this channel, and I got denied for the majority of the food stamps, and especially for the cash benefits, which even if I were to get approved, I would have only got up to about $200 a month. Try to live off $200 a month. It's impossible. It's literally not possible, at least in the U.S. And at the same time, maybe if I had kids on kids on kids, maybe I'd be set. But you know what? Being a guy, especially in a state in the Midwest like I am, I would be screwed over because of child support. So if you're a woman, and if you have some sort of location-based, where you can do this, this might be the way out, unfortunately.
When will billionaires stop asking for government handouts? And when will their bought and paid politicians stop giving them our fucking money? My home state of Missouri's Governor Mike Kehoe just called a special session of Congress. Not for schools, not for roads. Nope. He's dragging lawmakers back to the Capitol to figure out how to give the Kansas City Chiefs money for a fucking football stadium. A stadium whose sole beneficiary will be Clark Hunt. A man whose family is worth $25 billion. That's more than the GDP of like 65 countries. And now Mr. Hunt wants billions of dollars of taxpayer money, even after voters told him to fuck right off and rejected this exact same deal last year. Did you know Missouri ranks dead last in starting teacher pay? And our rural hospitals are disappearing at an alarming rate. 10 have closed in the last decade, and nearly a third are on life support. But this is what the governor thinks deserves a special session: a fucking football stadium. The state of Missouri's already lost 2 NFL franchises, the Cardinals in '88 and the Rams in 2016. If the Chiefs want to walk, fucking let them. We'll be fine. Because if a billionaire threatens relocation unless we hand over billions of dollars in public cash for his own personal gain, that's ransom disguised as civic pride.
Now, where is the shame gone in this country? Oh yeah, there never really was any shame here. That word doesn't really hold any true definition here at all. And just to kind of put into perspective with the first video and this next video, it seems as if money is just the catalyst of any sort of success, push, jump ahead, anything in this country. That's where all the respect is held. And so it doesn't really matter how you get it, as long as you're getting it and you have it. People don't really care how they're getting it or how they have it. As well as we're talking about the politicians trying to take our government tax dollars to build like sports stadiums, which, I mean, I already have my own whole, conspiracy type of idea on sports, right? They say how it's like the Coliseum was just there to distract the people from what's going on. I mean, you can't really pay attention to the whole collapse of Rome when you're like entertained by all the art and naked sculptures and people fighting to death, in the like Coliseum, like right, especially when there's no TV, that's what you go watch. But now there is TV, so now we just watch it all on our TV, and then it just scares us not really ever do anything about anything, which it kind of is what it is. But at the same time, it's just insane to think how the majority of these politicians, they made a lot of their money through asking from other people, from getting from other people, from getting like donations and stuff like that, from getting a pool of people just to throw it all in for causes that are mostly completely manipulative and not a full truth of what's actually going on in the background or even in plain sight a lot of the time. And it's, if that's where you get most of your money, you really don't have much of a, thing against it. Now, some might call it a grift, some might call it a career, depending on how you want to spin it or label it or, title yourself, because there's always a corporate slang word to make your position in life sound much better and a lot more professional than it actually is. But at the same time, the reason why these people are allowed and are able to keep doing this is because there's always more people willing to throw towards the good cause or whatever cause they consider being worthwhile for the, country, the civilization, for the economy, for the public, for the community, all that stuff. And at the end of the day, not everybody has a really good, mindset or a good view on the world. They don't really want the best for everybody. But even if people do, we all want a different type of good. And it only takes a sweet talker to manipulate you into being on their side.
How do we fuck over the citizens of this state? How do we do that?
What if we use taxpayer money to help fix the roads and create public transportation like trains and buses and stuff?
Okay, that sounds like our government is actually doing something good, but we need to do bad.
You didn't let me finish. Sure, they can ride the bus and the train or the subway or whatever, but they have to pay to do it.
That's genius.
Right? People are forced to pay taxes. It's not a choice. It's fucking mandatory. And yet we still have to make them pay for the thing that they paid to make.
Can you imagine having to take the bus to work where you earn that money that gets taken out for taxes to pay for that bus, but you still have to pay the ride the bus?
Even though we're getting all this money, we're never going to fix the roads. We're not going to fix anything.
And then the people are going to be like, where is my tax money going? This road caused my tire to pop. The whole point of me giving my money is to fix this, and they're not doing it.
It's actually a thought I've always had and a way I've always felt, where it's like they say that these are public transportation methods, and yet they always cost money, and you can't really access them unless you have some sort of funding to do it, even though the whole reason they're there is because of funding that we provided. So it's just a revolving door. It's just a revolving cycle of democracy that's just totally fueled by money. The money that is just, and then even the money's kind of a slave trap in the system, because it doesn't get to decide where it goes, and the people that put it in don't get to decide where it goes, and the people that get it don't really, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a whole type of just spinning wheel with nobody to blame, and there's nobody to point the finger at, so we just don't really ever get it all figured out and solved. And then now it just gets spent on this and this and that, and because it's such a high amount of money, such a high number of money, like billions on billions of dollars. It's absolutely insane to think about how most people can't really get a good grasp on where how much money this really is, and like where it's all going and what this is really like, the amount of input it actually puts out into the world and the value, and it's like it's a lot of money, guys. And so it's crazy to think how with the average person here struggling, and the average person making like, you know, $50,000 a year, and the average politician being like a millionaire, you know, and their stock trades being like incredibly significant for some odd reason. You know, it seems like the tables have always been turned. It seems like they've always been turned, and yet we're getting gaslit. We're getting brainwashed into believing that we're just making it up. You know. Well, either way, I'd love to hear all you guys' thoughts, opinions, and how you're personally getting screwed over through the economy, the government, or just your livelihood. And if you have any other maybe opinions, maybe some positive takes on anything involving taxpayer dollars or anything discussed in this video. So I'd love to hear all you guys' thoughts, opinions. So feel free to leave those down below in the comments. And I always like to give a huge shout out to my supporters around here, my Patreon supporters, my channel memberships, as well as everybody who rocks the links down below in the description. Those are some of the best ways to support me and the content around here. And I definitely do appreciate everybody who goes above and beyond and checks those out. So hope you enjoyed this video, or maybe you're just a doomer like me and you enjoy this type of stuff. But either way, I do appreciate you watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. See ya.